Hey, this is Candia Raquel, and you are at the Sensual Sessions podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through the senses and moving in a way that is completely free from inhibition and full of self expression. If you haven't already, please get yourself signed up to get these episodes delivered weekly on your inbox at centrodepoder.com, which is Center of Power, but in Spanish. It's www.centrodepoder.com. And today we have a very special guest right from Tel Aviv. This is Chen Agron. She's a dance artist, she's a choreographer, and she's also a dog trainer. So, welcome, Chen. I'm very honored to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I met Chen online taking one of her wonderful classes at Gaga People, and I discovered something very special about relating to my body. She talked about folding and unfolding, like using the joints like just to move, but not in an exercise repetitive fashion, but in a way that is like pleasurable. I felt almost like sea spongy in the sea, like pulsating or like a starfish, and it's
Yeah.
very pleasurable, and the essence of pleasure is present in all of your class, even if you don't mention it.
hmm
So I am very curious to know what's your take on this enjoying of the body through movement.
On pleasure, what's my take on pleasure?
Yeah.
Well, I think in general, pleasure is the most important thing to connect to in life. I think there's because we're so used to relating to things through our mind, and we forget the natural reaction of the body, which is pleasure, like rather than judging something through your mind, you
Yeah.
can actually go back to the sources of being a kid or a baby, and how many things, and then you'll find out how many things um, actually, when you just connect to your instincts and the sensation of your body, how many things can give you pleasure. Um, so I think in general, pleasure of the body through the senses is one of the most important things that make us maintain us being alive, you
Yeah.
know.
Yes. Yes. Pleasure helps us to connect to the life force itself. And you're so right when you think say that we refer to ourselves mainly also culturally through thinking. Like we even tend to believe that we are the one that thinks. But if we pay close attention, first we get the sensation of the body being pleasure
hmm
or being pain. And a proof is, for example, when you have pain, like this is, pain comes first rather than thought. Like there's nothing more immediate than than
hmm
the experience of the sensations. But once we get rid of pain, like we forget about sensing ourselves. So I
Yeah,
feel that
true.
this connection to pleasure is like coming back home, coming back to the present and to the
It's
moment.
coming back to your sensations
Yes.
rather than your thinking mind. And actually, I wanted to talk about pain, that especially in moments of pain, let's say I did something and I injured my shoulder.
Yes.
So most of us will refer to that injury and to this pain, not only to the sensation of it, but also the mind comes along with it. So the moment I know I injured my shoulder, then I immediately start my mind goes through a process of fear. Then I'm afraid to move it because it causes pain. And
Yes.
then I actually increase the amount of pain just from my mind because I'm afraid, because I'm traumatized from what I did. Um, because I think about all the things that I cannot do right now because I'm injured. And actually, when you go to a therapist, many times the mind will block yourself from the pleasure that the therapist is giving to this area because you're so afraid, because you're so attached to
Yeah.
the pain and to the trauma that happened. So basically, connecting to pleasure is really letting go of the mind and connecting to the sensations of the body.
Okay.
And it happens with pain, like you said, very easily. Once I have pain, I connect to the sensation, but then I increase it with my mind rather than just connecting to the sensation of it and allowing the sensation to change and listening to the change of the sensation as time goes on.
Wow, I am getting even the goosebumps. This is so important because it's like what is so mentioned, like in Buddhism, about suffering and pain. Because pain is like the reality of what's going on, but on top of that, we tend to overthink in our mind.
Yeah.
And something that I had never understood is what you say, like when the pain is actually ready to go away or changing, we block the the healing, and we block the pleasure
Hmm.
mentally, and
Yeah.
and if we let go
Because we're afraid.
because we are afraid, so it's like counterproductive, paradoxically, because like we want to protect ourselves, but then we are like prolonging the pain and the
Hmm.
suffering. And what you say is key, to flip it around, by instead of talking in our minds about that and giving into a story about what's going on, focus the mind on feeling, instead on sensing what's going on, and sensing how even the pain changes. And
Hmm.
if we allow it to change, and if we support the body and the experience with our awareness, then
Hmm.
the rest of ourself can come into play to support the pain on the injury. So I like this a lot because it has to do also with a wisdom on living life, like this way of relating to hardships, like
Hmm.
when we are going through an emotional challenge, or with a, I don't know, global challenge. This can get in our bodies as well, like emotional pain gets
Absolutely.
gets gets somatized. So
Hmm.
can you share with us a little movement experience, say about 3 5 minutes, to unblock pleasure, so we can like let go of pain?
Well, I think another angle for, what we talked about, how the mind is blocking the sensation of the body. When we talk about pleasure, especially in Gaga classes, many people that take a Gaga class, that they're not dancers, they block themselves from feeling the pleasure because of shame. So let's say that we're moving and we're doing something that is silly. And that's why in Gaga we like to connect many things to being silly, connecting to the child that you are. So let's say that we're doing something and I want to increase the sensation of the skin. I want us to connect to the sensation of the skin and the pleasure of the skin
Yes.
moving, um, feeling the temperature of things, sensing how the air is moving between my fingers as I move my hands, all of this. So many times, if I tell someone to connect to their silliness and to pleasure, they
Yeah.
will find it a bit hard because they're ashamed, so they will feel like they're doing something weird that they haven't done before. And so they won't really connect to the pleasure of it because they're ashamed. So this is why we have many things in Gaga to kind of shake off that shame or the awkwardness by sometimes I do it by making myself sillier. You know, if I show that you can be even more silly and even more weird and not care about how you look, then it kind of gives them a range to see that, okay, so what I'm doing is actually okay, and um, it does bring me pleasure. Um, or another way of doing it is to just go through an exercise to show them how to do something in a sense of form, in clear form. And then if I do something that has clear form, let's say I'm doing an exercise like this, I want you to bring waves from your shoulder through your elbow, through your wrist and down, and you want to pass this wave. So it has kind of clear form, you know, like we can all connect to something like this. And then I add on letting go in the spine, letting go in the shoulders, and connecting to the pleasure of the flow of movement that passes through you, you know, how you can really feel the energy passing through from one arm to another, how you can feel the flow of movement passing through your spine and the pleasure that it gives by releasing your spine, feeling the movement there, which is something that we're a lot of us we tend to tense our spine and chest. So and we most people will go like this because our emotions and our the tension that we carry throughout the day, throughout our lives, usually it sits in our chest, in our back, spine, mostly the spine, the neck, the the upper back, the lower back, the whole spine, and sometimes the stomach. But these are the three areas kind of that are usually blocked. So we like to really give exercises and all kinds of tasks to release these areas so that a person can really connect to the pleasure of movement in places that they're not used to moving, and to the pleasure of the flow, which is extremely important because tension, you know, emotional stress, we all experience it all the time. And it creates what you talked about before, creates pain, it creates blockages inside the body. So the moment you go through a Gaga class and the teacher guides you through all kinds of tasks to open up the flow of your body, the flow of movement, the flow of information passing through you, leaving you, the flow between you and the other people in the room, the flow between you and whatever is outside the window. It really opens up and it really is the best way to sense pleasure.
Wow. Yes. This is so beautiful.
That's
Just
it.
to summarize your great three tips to unblock pleasure. So the first thing is to realize that if we are not used to, we can block pleasure by feeling ashamed.
Mhm.
So one way to
Yes.
do that is making clear that we are in an open space where silliness and awkwardness is welcome, and actually
Mhm.
exaggerate it a little bit and try to be more weird and more awkward, so you can be more like open to discover new territories in yourself and like be creative, because creating is like doing something that didn't existed before. So I
Mhm.
love it as an act of creativity of the self, like continually recreating yourself through the pleasure in movement. And secondly, like begin with a clear form, like making waves. And I wanted to continue making waves. And then like from the structure, find your own movement, your own flow. And the third thing is like give more into the flow, because the flow is like the remedy for this tension and stiffness from physical, emotional, mental, social. pain,
Mm-hmm.
and now I get it. Flow is like connecting with our nature because we are always changing. So
Yes,
practicing flow is like a very clear way of coming back to our essence and
exactly.
realizing that existing is very pleasurable. Thank you so much, Chen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you very much.
tell us, how can we learn more from you? How can we see you dancing? I know you've been on tour in the US, all over the West Coast, and now you're back in Israel. So yeah, tell us.
Well, I think for whoever wants to dance with me is welcome to join the online classes, the online Gaga classes that are constantly happening. There's a class every day of the week. So that's one way. And performing right now, I just came back from tour. There are a few things that I'm planning on doing. Because I'm a freelancer now, so there are a few projects that are in the works. Um, but yeah, I'm sure I will update once there will be a show of one of these projects. I will update on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm sure people
Great,
could see it and join if they want.
great. And what's your Instagram profile?
It's Chen Agron,
Chen
just
Agron.
super easy.
Super
Yeah.
great. Thank you, Chen. Such a pleasure to have
Thank you so much.
Sessions
Have
podcast.
a great rest of your day. Thank you.
And thank you, Sensualists, for being here. So go to Instagram and follow Chen Agron. Get in touch with her. Her work and her classes are amazing. And also, have you already got the free guide to awaken sensuality? If you haven't, go to my website and grab it at www.centrodepoder.com, which is www.centrodepoder. And catch you next time. Remember to sense your fire so you can share the flame.